All right, welcome back to Sabercast. Hopefully this one goes up in the correct order here. Today in the studio, I have both Aenir and Spam. You may also know them as Chris Oros and Kevin Cushing. Kevin Cushing? It's not Kevin Cushing, is it?
No, that's right.
Oh my god, I got it right. Got a name right! You guys, I got a name. We were chatting around a little bit after our streaming of the NSFL playoffs, and figured we'd just keep rolling with this and kind of talk about stuff that's been going on in the league with our individual players, with the playoffs, and all that kind of stuff. So, as I always start out with, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing good. How about you, Cushing?
Life's good, man. It's been too long since we did this.
Yeah. Well, so we've just seen some fun playoff games, and by fun, I mean total and complete blowouts. Who do you think was...
Go ahead. Let's be fair. The Baltimore game wasn't a blowout. By my count, the score was 3-3. Trey Willie won the game.
That's true. Trey Willie did score 4 touchdowns.
Best summary ever. Baltimore 3 points, Liberty 3 points. Trey Willie.
Trey Willie. No, okay, hold on. I would say Baltimore scored 7 points.
Oh, yeah. Well, 6.
Because
remember,
they did kick some extra points. Oh, yeah. 6 points. Good job, Baltimore. Nailed it. And then Trey Willie scored 24 points.
It's not quite. I mean, I know
right.
Christmas got a touchdown right at the end, but let's be honest, the game was already, well in hand at that point in time.
Yeah. And, again, Trey Willie still did score on his first 4 touches of the game.
Which is still ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought it was 3 touches. I think we're touchdown.
No. He scored. He had the first catch,
the 3 catches, and then a kickoff.
Yeah, he had catch for a touchdown, kick return for a touchdown, catch for a touchdown, and then he started catching non-touchdown passes.
Oh, that's right, because it was the 3/5 jokes, but it was because it was 3 receptions, and then I'm tracking out.
Yeah.
Oh. And here I thought you thought he was making a clever historical reference.
I actually considered making one, but I couldn't get one out efficiently enough.
You're only 3/5 effective at jokes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. That was... Obviously, I don't know about you guys. I am ready to, regardless of what happens here, I'm pretty much ready to name Trey Willie the the postseason MVP.
It would take an amazing performance, probably by Bronco in the Ultimus, to change that.
What about Jace? Jace is always in the running for any sort of MVP award.
He is, but Bronco actually had a really solid game against the Otters. He had 250 yards in the first half.
I was gonna say unless Jace Tuck manages to pull off like 2 strip sacks for touchdowns, that would make me start questioning things. But I mean, Trey Willie had 3 touchdowns in the first quarter or the first half on 3 touches.
That's what I'm saying, though. If Trey Willie gets shut down in the Ultimus and Bronco goes off, I could see it still being him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that'll be an interesting thing to see. Is we've got this this kind of epic third receiver, and a lot of teams don't get to plan for that third receiver as much. That's where most teams' depth kind of starts to fall off on the defensive side.
Well, Baltimore actually has 4. Is the really scary part. Who's
their 4th again? They've got Vincent, they've got Christmas, they've got Stormblessed, and they've got Trey Willie. Oh my god.
Yeah. And the thing is, both Vincent and Christmas are big body guys that can play TE as well, so that's what happens sometimes. Right.
Yeah, I would imagine that I'd love to go back through at some point, and I can, I'm sure. I'm not going to do it right now, but at some point, and look at what's going on with. I apologize. just take a look at what's going on with where he's playing his snaps, where he's getting these, because obviously he got 3 touchdown passes in a row. Who's he going up against? Where's he taking these snaps? And I think these are all things that the Outlaws will look into,
Honestly,
sure.
I think he was up against O'Sullivan pretty much the whole game.
Really? At the number 2 receiver slot?
I'm pretty sure that they had Willie on the right and Stormbliss on the left, and Philly had Oles on the left and O'Sullivan on the right. So, because we're thinking about it, every time Stormbliss caught, it was on Oles.
Okay.
So that would mean that it was Willie against O'Sullivan.
Yeah, well, not always. If he's playing out of the slot,
True.
There's a chance he could be going up against a linebacker or a safety who may not be as good. You know what I mean?
Can you not depth chart to have them set to? Are they only set to sides, or can you set them to player?
You can set them to sides only.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So realistically, what you'll look at in a depth chart is a left wide receiver and a right wide receiver, and then in that opportunity, they sometimes do a slot and a tight end, or 2 tight ends, or a slot and a flat, or something like that. It's kind of a weird setup, but at the end of the day, the slot receiver can move around. The left and right don't, which is interesting.
Does that mean theoretically? I mean, say you had 3 wide receivers. Could you put your highest TPE, best receiver at slot and take advantage of those mismatches? Will the game allow you?
You absolutely can. Bear in mind, though, that the downside of that is the slot, just because it's so crowded, there seem to be more interceptions thrown up the middle. I think the sim just kind of...
Is that because of the receivers? Or is that because of crappier hands? Like you're against...
Well, part of it is the slot receivers, regardless of what they do, don't run the slot route that you would think from watching like a Jarvis Landry or an Odell Beckham or this year, oddly enough, Nelson Aguilar. You're not going to see the kind of quick mismatch stuff. You're going to see quick curl routes, quick slant routes, quick crossing routes, quick flat routes. Like that is what they run. They don't run anything fancy. They don't try to do anything crazy. They are the intermediary thing. Usually it's like your 2 guys on the outside will go out that 5 to 10 yard route, which I just think is so weird that they only go out that far and then just halt there.
I think that's just a visual thing.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry.
So you got those on the outside, and then you'll have tight end and slot receivers crossing over the middle, with the tight end being like a 2 to 5 yard out, and the slot receiver being like a 4 to 7 yard out.
Yeah, and who's on them very much depends on your formation and which play is being run. So
It always seems kind of funny to me. Maybe it's just because, being a Bears fan and on passing being a dirty word for most of my life, that it always seemed that the 1 and 2 wide receivers were your big, strong, either, I'm going to go 10 in a corner, or, possession guys. And the slot would be I'm just going to take the top off the defense from the 3rd spot, because that's usually
that's varied over the years. Like, you're not wrong. It used to be that the slot was your quick guy who could just embarrass linebackers.
Right.
However,
quick guy, not fast.
Now you're starting to see bigger-bodied receivers go up in the slot who can help with the run blocking. So it's neither one's really wrong. Whether you want to exploit a bigger mismatch or whether you want a more utility player there.
And honestly, a lot of teams will, if they have the men for it, play both there. They vary it based on who they have available to them. Because the Giants are going to run Odell out of the slot 100% of the time. Well, not 100%, but, their option normally is going to be to put him in the slot. Because why would you not? He kills there. He's quick. He's elusive. You can run him out over the middle. He's going to make really sharp routes, and he's going to make people miss, and he's going to catch and get some stuff done. But if you look at the Cardinals, they're going to put Larry Fitzgerald in the slot a bunch. Not only because he's a good run blocker, but also because he's got the solid hands and he's got the strength to beat out a linebacker even in a one-on-one matchup. Like,
in fact, I'd say that's probably the one thing that hasn't changed. You want your slot guy to have great hands because that fucker's getting hit.
Right. So you either need him to be strong enough to tank that hit or quick enough to dodge it. But no matter what, if he's going to get hit, he needs to be able to catch the ball.
Or you can Devin Hester it like the Bears did. Throw him 6 passes a game, watch him drop 4, but those other 2 go for, 50 yards each.
Yeah. All right. So I'm thinking we should avoid trying to do Ultimus predictions because realistically, people won't listen to this until after the Ultimus is over.
Correct. Probably.
In that case, Wraiths to win it all.
They may or may not listen to this. Could go out Wednesday right before Ultimus, but they probably won't listen to it right before Ultimus. So,
exactly.
So the way I see it could go out tomorrow night. You never know. The way I see it, yeah, I agree with you on no Ultimus predictions for right now. We'll just move on. We'll talk about something else that me and Aenir were going to talk about for a while. Didn't get to in our last podcast, and we'll hopefully get to in this one because we're going to bring it up right the fuck now. But also what helps is you're here as well, which is the whole idea of the play-by-play.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. We kind of got distracted for an hour and a half last time. And what originally it started as is in other leagues I've been in, player leagues, the game was simmed in Madden. And this is like 2006 when I first started, when I was new to this. But streaming software wasn't there yet. So basically, you play the game, and it would take a really long time because you'd play the game, you'd play to like a big play or something, or build a little suspense. You'd let a play happen, you'd go to the replay, you take a screenshot, you take the screenshot, put it up on PhotoBucket, type out what happened, and then paste the screenshot. So, you'd have, maybe for one, like on a, specifically in Madden, on a screen, because Madden loves the screen for some reason, you'd occasionally have cornerbacks jump the route. More often than not, that would mean a pick six going the other way. But every so often, it would, the cornerback would just miss, but he'd still be in position. So I would take a screenshot using their real replay tool, looking from the quarterback to the receiver, and you'd see the cornerback flashing across the middle. So I take a screenshot of that. So, paste it, let it go. People are going, oh crap, because they all know what this leads to. And then, you fake them out a little bit like that, and then you show, oh, it was caught by the wide receiver, and then the next screenshot's gonna be, oh, he took it 60 yards to the house. So, you throw that in. Then that's what I tried to do when I was doing the text play-by-plays with GIFs, for the first season 1, season 2.
Okay.
The problem it had was that because the game doesn't have a visual component, you have to get random ass GIFs.
Yeah.
Which are nice here and there, but let's be honest, after, a game or two, it really loses its novelty. So attendance was trending downwards, and it was still taking the same amount of time, because I know at least I tried to use unique GIFs each time.
I think the time was the biggest factor in the old PvP. You want to see the next play. And, I just found myself, refresh, and it would just take forever. Every once in a while, there would be a pause for some reason. And it would just take all night. This would be after the first set of games were simmed.
Yeah, I think it was, 3 to 5 hours, depending on how GIF heavy you wanted to get. I got it down, excluding big plays, I tried to get it down to 2.5 hours. Multiple drives in one post, etc. Because if nothing's happening, it's no point for making another post for that. Just throw it all in one.
Right.
But like I said, I think part of that is because of the time, and I'm looking for GIFs that are unique, so I'm not repeating myself. It added more time. Whereas if we had a different game mention, I could just say, "Oh, here's the screenshot of what happened." Period. And then as time went on, and streaming software became, holy crap, you can actually do this. GM leagues, you could do it oh, you're simming, you just watch the game play. Which is a halfway point between what we're doing now and that. and what I was doing before. And whereas, I'm not that I don't like this one. The visual component I think is important. But audio, you can't ignore that either. So I've tried to, we brought up, it's like, oh, we could do live play-by-play. Brought it up with brought it up with Baller Storms, like, oh, we could work with this. Had a couple rough starts in the beginning. Like the first game was Muford and I, we kind of stepped on each other's toes a little bit because we weren't, like, he's my brother, and we were pretty good on a connection level, like, because we've known each other our lives. We weren't quite comfortable with reading the play as fast as we go. So we shook it up a little bit. We brought Cushing in, we brought Sweetwater in, and we were bringing a lot of people to break up the monotony of just a couple people doing it all the time. And that's, obviously why Cushing, Sweetwater, and I did NSFC playoff game. I think we still have a couple issues with some dead space. There's a couple issues with the simming, and not the game being sim, but we got to find a way to streamline it a little bit where the plays aren't going too quick that we can't react to them, but the plays aren't so slow that you're sitting there going, oh, for fuck's sake, why don't they stop talking and get on with the game? It's that middle area I want to try to hit. And I couldn't do it without, the help of all the play-by-play guys. And that's, like I said, that's where you guys come in. I've listened to some of your guys' stuff, and it's really, really good because you bring just the right amount of silly plus serious to the game. I mean, you guys got anything to add on from your point of view for the play-by-play? Because, I mean, it's kind of like, it's sort of my baby, but I want to open it up to everybody else because, I mean, it takes a village,
Yeah. I think the biggest problem for me is I don't have the software to actually send out the games, and even if I could, I wouldn't, because I can only do voice from my laptop, which has just such shitty speed. But I think it'd be nice if we had more people who could actually do the play-by-play. I know Jiggly's expressed interest. Some other people have got to be interested in this. Not every combo is going to be a winner, but I really would like to see more people get in on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm always open for expanding the roster. I think one thing we do have an issue with is we have an overabundance of color guys, not so many play-by-play guys. That's why Sweetwater is in like every game.
I think a lot of that comes down to the technical stuff, because you have to have the person running it kind of be the play-by-play.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, until we can do some other options, which I'm working on a way that we might be able to. I have some ideas on that I would be glad to share with you afterward, Aenir.
Okay.
Basically, just some other streaming sites that may work out. Basically, I found a way, I think, it would have to be tested, where I can share my screen with the color guy in one chat room, and then stream that screen from my end to Twitch, so that the two people doing the commentary would be watching it in real time and commenting in real time, and then moving that over to the Twitch would be getting that all at the same time. So we may experiment with that tomorrow for the DSFL thing, possibly. Or we may play around with it tomorrow, and I know this means nothing in the context of this podcast, but if we play around with it, it'd be something that would be awesome to unveil at the Ultimus as a big full thing where we get
that sounds awesome.
But we'll talk about that one a little bit later. But
I would definitely like to see us play more with DSFL. The problem is DSFL, we already run 6 games a night.
Right.
Because we do 2 weeks at once.
Right.
So doing 5 games and then a play-by-play is a little more time.
Oh no,
I think that's a problem. But at the same time, I believe that DSFL has got to be about developing everything about the league, and that should include play-by-play.
I would argue, at least from one standpoint, that DSFL. So we aren't going to be casting the DSFL championships because we're not doing 6 games in a week. But definitely, check out what is it? Look into doing some play-by-play for the DS because those guys deserve it too. We don't want to deprive them of the experience, and obviously we're doing 6 games a week right now, which is a lot. 6 games a night on Tuesday and Thursday, which is a lot. Is it really? Do they really do 2 weeks at a time?
Yeah, they really do, and it's
because
it's a shame because you're playing to an audience of about 5 people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because people really aren't watching the DSFL as much. We need to find a way to get it more involved. In fact, and that's something we could work with as well. But it could be something as simple as making there be like a game of the week or something. You know what I mean? Like a DSFL game of the week that's aired during the NSFL streamings. You know what I mean? Like, so we find the best game from that week, or what we believe to be the best matchup. We run the stuff. We run the sims a little bit ahead of time, as we do right now. I think everybody's aware of that. If they aren't, surprise, I guess. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you know this because you've been around the league for a little bit and care enough about the league to listen to this. So I'm assuming you have some understandings of the.
Tell me how you feel about that, because obviously that is a somewhat new thing.
That is a somewhat new thing. So that was instituted recently, and by recently I mean this year and this season, and really it's helped with make the play-by-play possible. It kind of started with that was actually kind of the final push it needed for that to happen. But basically, people, whether jokingly or not, for some reason decided that is rigging sims.
He's not?
Is absolutely not true, as I am part of the team that now watches over him to make sure that he doesn't rig the sims.
But who watches you?
Well, it's me. it's me and a collection of other people. But yes, no, I guess nobody technically watches us. But I would assume that me being in that, you can. I guess if you don't trust me, you can accuse me of it too. But if my team hasn't gone 16-0 or 14-0,
they haven't gone 16 in 3 seasons combined.
Yeah, I'm aware. So obviously, I'm not bribing Air enough to let us even get all the wins except against his team. So, so basically, there were some complaints from some users who I will not name, but put some pressure on the head office to make sure that was not cheating, which he fucking wasn't. Like, I'll just put it straight up there. He definitely was not. If he wanted to, the Otters or the Outlaws would have been undefeated this year, and they would have.
They go undefeated next year. This starts all over again.
Yeah, right. I know. But anyway, so I don't have an issue with it. It was an interesting thing. It's been kind of interesting to see kind of the back behind it, but it's gotten me in on the streaming as well. It's let me develop a nice relationship with at least at the least. Having that relationship between head office and simmer is kind of important. I know it seems like that opens up the door for collusion, but it really is there for your protection. But it's been interesting. I like having them done beforehand. I don't really care. I have to get my the thing that's the biggest inconvenience for me is I have to get my stupid predictions in before anybody else. Kind of. I mean, not necessarily before anybody else, but before I get sent the link to watch the Sims be done live, which is kind of a pain because usually I'm at work because I was
about to say you've missed a couple of predictions because of that. In fact,
I have. I absolutely have. It happens. So it would be easier for me not to do it, but it keeps an air of transparency about the league, which is good, I think. Ultimately, it's for the best, but it is an inconvenience to all of those involved. Oh well. But it's been fun because, as soon as he gets done with it, he records the full game. Because for those of you who don't know, who listen to this, who don't have the sim, you can just hit sim and it doesn't show the video. You actually have to choose to watch the video. But it actually just sims the whole game before it makes the video, which is part of the reason why the video looks kind of fucky, I think. Like I said, it just happens, and then we try to. In the case of the conference championships, there's no choice. We were assigned to a game, and then I actually got pulled into the other one because of streaming issues. But we try to choose the most interesting game because you guys want to hear the most interesting game. And we base that on nothing, but we have no idea what the play-by-play is. We just see a final score and go, all right, it was close. Let's put it out there. But sometimes it's not close. Sometimes there's not a close one. Sometimes there's a game of the week, like an Ultimus rematch, or one of the fun ones was Yeti versus Yeti versus Legion, that kind of stuff. We try to give each team a chance, and we try to make sure that the games are interesting. Because let's be honest, shoutcasting a blowout is not all that fun.
No, that's fair.
But it's been an enjoyable time. Honestly, I've had fun with it. I'm thankful to Aenir for bringing me on. It's been a learning experience, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of develop the play-by-play skills to do the actual play-by-play and not color commentary. And I've been thankful to my color commentators who know way more about random shit than I do.
I was gonna say, God knows it's because, bring you in. I mean, good decision, but didn't want to be accused of favoritism with me and Kolbe on the same team or something.
Well, it might have been an issue if our team were actually relevant in the playoffs this year, but we got lucky there.
None of our casters were in the playoffs. We were all second to last place teams in our league or our conferences.
Hey, I take offense at that because it makes it seem like we were terrible. We were 7-7 with a great point differential.
I know we had the best point differential in the conference. It's
that's great. How's your playoffs going?
Yeah,
you can have as whatever. You could have a plus 300 point differential, but you still lost.
I do think that it does matter though when we look to next season. That huge win over the Otters, finishing the season with that point differential really made us feel a lot better. Like it was frustrating. Like, oh, now we get a fucking lucky win. One of the statements I made was, if you took the luck that it took for us to beat the Otters on the road by that much, if we'd taken like a third of that luck and applied it to 3 different games, we'd be sitting at home field in the playoffs,
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. It would really be interesting to see what would happen because your team has all of the. If I'm honest, you have all the things you need for the most part to be a successful franchise and to have made it to the playoffs. And to have won in the first round, theoretically, against the Hawks. But something happened. The sim really dicked over Dermott this year. He allowed probably more passes than I've ever seen him allow. Had some of the lowest stats of his career as a corner. And that's just one position.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game seems to have a hate boner for the Wraiths. And to some extent, the Sabercats as well.
So
you guys tied.
I will have to say that some of it is on us. We make some mistakes when it comes to our strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We have been caught with our pants down. I think probably the most famous one was when we bitched about the missed field goals, only for someone on another team to realize that we still had Ricky Maddoxon as our blocker in field goal formations. I don't think anyone on our team really understands the playbooks that well and how to really exploit them.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of things I don't want to give away because they haven't really been fixed and I don't want to tip our hand. But I do think that we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to strategy. And even though we were comparable in TPE to the Outlaws, and like you said, had a lot of the pieces we needed, I really think that the strategy is what's killed us. That's why Beezercap was so eager to hire a co-GM.
Yep.
And we got one. He helped us game plan his ass off for one game. We lost it, and he quit.
Yeah. So I haven't really talked to you guys since that happened. Anybody on the on the Wraiths? What the fuck?
So honestly, the expectations were set too high. They worked their ass off on a game plan against Arizona. Beezercat may have hyped it up too much.
Okay.
And posted a lot about, oh, we're going to win this. Trust me, it's in the bag. Why the fuck would you say that about any game? Much less fucking Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. You
this
guys
is a team that knows how to do test sims too,
More than enough. But I mean, especially because not only are you doing it against Arizona, but hadn't you, this was a team that before he had stepped in as GM had been beaten by both the Yeti and the Sabercats.
Not yet.
Not the Yeti yet? Because I know I think you'd been beaten by the Sabercats then.
Yeah, but it was in San Jose, I believe.
Okay.
We hadn't had the home loss to San Jose.
We got 5 wins this season, man.
But again, like if you look at those first 4 games, we lost by 2 points to the Hawks. We lost by 1 point to the Cats. Yeah. Both road games.
I'm not saying you didn't keep it close. What I'm saying is to take a team that had lost the way you guys had, even though you kept it close, and then say we're definitely going to win against Arizona.
Yeah. Well, we were at home, I think was the big difference.
Did you guys almost? I have no idea what the score was.
No, it wasn't that close.
It felt that close. God knows the game took that long. Or felt that long.
Well, if you're passing all the time, the games take forever. Because those incomplete passes, for whatever reason, eat up so much time. Not in game time, just in real life time.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't realize you guys had not only set I guess I assumed that the GM the co-GM was cocky enough to have stayed around and not let losing to the best team in the league get under his skin. But did he immediately quit after that?
Within a couple days, I think.
Wow.
Aenir, are you tracking either? It was really soon after that he sent a message to Beezercap and let him know.
That's crazy. It's honestly crazy.
Yeah. Bear in mind, it was a weird time. This was also right after all the tampering shit had come out.
Right. No, I understand.
So we were missing Axelson from the team, and so I think that's part of the reason why he was so like, hey, we're going to beat the Outlaws. I think he really wanted to let the rest of the team know that, this suspension wasn't that big a deal. We were going to come back from it. We were still a playoff contender.
Yeah, right. was a big thing. I got clobbered those 2 fucking games without Zerk.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, getting clobbered by the Outlaws is to be expected. Jace Tuck has, 30 sacks on the year?
It was 32, yeah, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one you kind of have to expect. He's averaging almost 2 sacks a game. That's huge. But who was the other one you played without Axelson?
That was the Cats.
Okay.
So we went 0-2 without him, and both were very winnable games. Outlaws at home and Cats at home.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Cats at home was a little more infuriating for multiple reasons, but
yeah, I would understand that.
But I mean, that game right there was where the playoffs just died.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. And did you guys find a replacement for Co-GM again?
Yes, we did. We got a great one. Bovo Vovo, otherwise known as Bork Bjornsson. He was my co-GM in the DSFL.
The bearded wonder.
Obviously, that team speaks for itself. I mean, look at the Marshals. They are an amazing team. He's very much a part of that. Right. He's been active. He's great attitude. I loved working with him. Really, the only reason he wasn't chosen earlier is because he didn't apply in the first round.
Sure.
Because he liked being a DSFL GM as well.
Yeah.
And we had so many applicants, it just. But then after the Archon things, okay, we need someone we can fucking trust, who is going to come in here, who can actually help,
and who's going to stay around. Because it wasn't like Archon didn't help.
Correct.
He just disappeared after he failed one time.
But he wasn't quite as knowledgeable. If we told him to test something, he'd test it. But he didn't understand positions or formations or shit like that. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was capable of running errands for us basically in the sim. Not really strategizing. Whereas Bork had a little bit better grasp of things, more than a little bit. So it was an upgrade in every way. Like I said, the only reason he wasn't named sooner is because he hadn't applied.
No, and I don't blame him. He was having fun as a DSFL GM.
Yeah, and still learning.
With his teammate from the NSFL and having fun with it.
Yeah. So I was sorry to lose him, but at the same time, as a DSFL GM, it was great for me to see someone who really didn't know a ton about, how the playbooks worked, the different, things you could do, the different things you had to do as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
And to go from where he was pre-draft to where he is now, it really is amazing to see. And I think it's one of the few really good things to come out of the DSFL so far. Okay. Is we now have a great NSFL GM DSFL experience.
Oh yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about him. Although, for some reason, during practice, he makes everyone wear fake beards. The weirdest thing.
Well, with all this talk of race stuff and fun player movement and people disappearing and whatever else, we have our fun little bet that Cushing had made there that was recently called off, much to the chagrin of many.
Yeah. Very, very subtle segue. Didn't see that one coming at all.
No, right? But I promised I wouldn't talk too much about it, but you are here.
I knew it was going to happen. And
I did tell you what was going to happen, no matter what. I can't not. You're here. Why the heck not? So obviously we all know the generals about it. If they won 2 or more games, blah, 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 you'd go over there. If they didn't, they'd get your guy, or you get their guy. Now, the head office shut that down. And as part of that, I will preface this by saying I was not a huge factor in that decision. I had some real life stuff going on and couldn't really pay attention. I kind of watched that one a little bit from the sidelines. But there's kind of 2 parts in what was going on there. So let's talk about the first part, which was canceling the trade. because the second part is the cap shenanigans.
Right.
That's a totally different thing. So the trade, the trade, the bet, whatever. So the head office came out, said that bet is off. It is essentially tampering, and we reserve the right to deny any bet we see that we feel is not done with the best intentions or breaks NSFL rules. So, and from what I understand, you disagree.
I do. Well, partially. So I actually, when Adam2552 posted the thing about the Legion salary cap, I posted, I had to let people know that I saw it, but I didn't weigh in on it. I want to say I just made a joke about Tanner's performance. But I said, I'm staying out of this. Obviously I'm involved. I can't pretend to be disinterested. I'm just going to hang back.
Mm-hmm.
However, I no longer felt the same way about the bet. They won 2 games, both by 1 possession and both with illegal rosters. That's kind of a big deal.
Yes.
At that point, I could see the bet being canceled. Because,
sure,
if it's illegally won, that's not a win.
Right.
And I did a presser and I talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because Varga already retired, there was no way to find a compromise to keep the bet going into next season.
Right.
I posted in a presser that if I could, I would have said, listen, I'll give you guys 1 win for this year. I'll accept that you would have won 1 of those games, which means you just got to win 1 more in all of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Bet's still on.
Right.
And yeah, I probably would have gotten some shit for saying that, but fuck it. Like I consider that a fair compromise.
Sure.
But because he'd retired, I couldn't do that because it was no longer possible for him to follow through on his end of it.
Correct.
On that logic, I'm completely okay with the bet being terminated.
Right.
As for the tampering part, yes, it's tampering. But tampering just means the communications outside the public forums, which it was. It was an NSFL general chat on Discord. It was not in any way on the site. But there are other things that you're not allowed to do that the bet thread is a sanctioned circumvention to.
Okay.
For example, you are not allowed to give money to another player in the league. But you are allowed to bet money to another player in the league.
Yes.
I didn't say, hey, I bet you win 1 game or more. I said 2. And you know what? As low a bar as that was, remember, this was before the Yeti imploded.
Mm-hmm.
That meant that the only team that they really had a chance of beating was the Cats. And the Cats were getting better. The Legion was not.
Right.
That I was tracking TPE gains all throughout last season.
I do.
9 games in, they were at 0 fucking wins. This bet was likely. I can't say it was more likely than not, but this was not. The only rules in the bet thread are you're not allowed to use it as a gift. You can't bet on something that's a given.
Right.
This bet was not a given.
No, it wasn't.
Therefore, in the same way that betting money is allowed when you're not allowed to give money, I believe that this bet was allowed when you're not allowed to otherwise discuss player moves with another GM.
Okay.
Some may agree with that, some may not. That's my logic.
I gotcha. All right.
Obviously, I think most of the site agreed that this made the league more exciting. That there were real consequences and that it was fun as shit to follow.
Sure.
It made Legion games more watchable. That right there is a fucking service to the league. It made Legion players care about just getting something. They knew they weren't going to the playoffs, but Now they only had a goal of 2 wins. That was a reachable goal.
Right.
And you know what? You saw more activity from the Legion players this year. You saw more of a presence from them. They were more vocal.
Some might say that's because they got new GMs.
They got an influx of new players as well, yeah. But remember, Artie didn't become a GM until mid-season.
But he was still there pushing it, I would say.
Yeah.
We continue
on. And from the moment Tanner got called up, he became quite vocal as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there were other factors. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I will kind of give you my outlook on it. Like I said, I was not the one who made this decision, so I don't know if you could totally pin this on me, but my opinion on the fact is that it was still technically tampering. Not just because it was off the field, but the rule says that it is negotiated. It is essentially worded as it is a negotiated holdout or a negotiated trade that is done without contacting the GM. I will find the exact ruling here as I look around. But basically, what ends up happening is by you betting your contract, which you technically can't do because that's what a trade is.
So just to correct you real quick, the bet was that once I became a free agent, I would go there.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And the same was for Varga. When he would be a free agent, he would as well.
I don't know if that was 100% real because the wording of the bet was not as soon as we become a free agent. It was if they get 2 wins, I will go over to that team. Or if they do not get 2 wins, you will come over to this team.
Yes, but it was if they get 2 wins over those 2 seations, I'll play there in season 5.
Part of the issue was the wording
was my
of
first year of free agency.
That's fair, but part of the issue with the bet is that the wording was such so that it wasn't 100% sure whether the bet was immediately concluded when they got 2 wins, because it just says if they get 2 wins over the next 2 seasons. Well, does that mean it ends as soon as they get their second win, or does that mean it ends as soon as if they have 2 wins at the end of 2 seasons? It was up for It was up for interpretation a bit.
Not worded as clearly as it needed to be.
Correct. So that was part of it. There was no technical endpoint to it. Obviously, one of the players going inactive and retiring doesn't help anything at all. So that kind of ends it there. But tampering is defined as a player or GM approaching a player under contract with another team whose rights are owned by another team outside of the public forum. So yes, the outside is there with the purpose of persuading them to join your team, request a trade, or hold out on contract negotiations. Technically, when you hit free agency, this bet is you holding out on contract negotiations with your own team to go to another one. And
completely agreed.
Okay, so that was the biggest reason, is that technically, if you had gone through the bet, it would have been considered tampering. And obviously, one of the other things I talked to you about before we started recording was that this bet was made towards the end of, right before the beginning of season 3, which, if people don't remember, was right about the time when Logan Noble. So the GM office was not really paying attention to bets at that time.
Yeah, I believe it was made about a week and a half to 2 weeks before the Noble announcement. So obviously I was not aware of it. Probably the vast majority of the league was not, but yeah, obviously HO was dealing with it.
HO, as far as I can't go through the head. I can go through and see when that happened, but I cannot really divulge that information to the public.
Fair enough.
Just for the sake of my own job and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you that they were aware of it before the announcement was made, and it had been discussed at large. Obviously. I mean, that was such a big deal.
Yeah.
He couldn't not. So, they basically, what ended up happening was that they really didn't, from what I can tell, and not that they didn't give a shit, but that was priority number 1. So you can't really blame them for not taking notice of it immediately. And then That was followed up with finding new HO members, and that was followed up with another thing, and that was basically it was a
never-ending,
unfortunate, never-ending series of events because it was like that was followed up immediately with after I got brought on. It was I forget what exactly. There was something that happened like right after I got brought on, and then right after that was the Berserk Cap tampering. And then right after that was the whole bullshit with getting accused of rigging sims. And then right after that was the thing. It's what I found out is so much more goes on than I realized. It seems like every other day we get a message in the head office of, hey, I've just gotten a message from a player. They are concerned about X. Or, hey, I've got a message from a player. They are complaining about Y.
Those damn letters.
I know, right? But you'd be amazed at how easy you get distracted from stuff like that. And honestly, I personally think the bet was hilarious and would have loved to have seen you gone through. From an HO standpoint, I understand totally why we did. And the reasoning I gave you was part of the reasoning that we disallowed it.
Right.
And it was brought up that we should have nullified it a while ago. We should have. But regardless. So then the next part of that was the whole Legion was it Legion going over the cap?
Yep.
Okay. And what had happened was apparently that happened in S1 and S2 as well. I believe the ruling on this one came due to us, due to partially because we have new people in the head office from what we did in S1 and S2, and wanting to put a foot down and make sure that we're on top of our shit more than anything. Like, honestly, the $3 million cap space, take or leave. It's not a huge effect to the team. It's really a slap on the wrist in terms of punishments for breaking rules. If I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not, but I think just a $3 million cap hit.
I think it's more serious than a slap on the wrist because this free agency is such a big free agency.
It is a big free agency, but in the big scheme of things, we could have imparted a much harsher punishment. I mean, theoretically, you've got.
I do agree with that. Yes.
We could have taken more money. We could have removed draft picks. We could, there were worse things that could have happened. So in that scheme, yes, obviously with the big free agency coming up, that is a bigger deal. But the thing to note is that while it's unfortunate that we punished them and not the ones earlier, which again, half of the GM office or the HO was not even a part of, we are using this as a turning point to more closely monitor caps, to more closely monitor player transactions, contract postings, and the like, and really, really buckle down on this to make sure it does not happen again. And also it starts to set a precedent for what happens should it happen again. And I don't know what's officially gone on the books, but it seems like it'll probably end up being for minor infractions, a 1.5 times of what you've gone over.
Yeah.
And then for larger ones, case-by-case basis. But it could eventually end up being most of them going to a case-by-case basis. But most of them there shouldn't be another one that happens for a while.
No, I do think that it's going to be tracked better in the future. So yeah, I agree that it's not likely to be as common as it was. I just think that it's such a shitty time to start with a punishment, given that they were lacking a GM, that we had shitty tracking, and the fact that it wasn't tracked had been brought up as a suggestion.
Yeah,
the fact that some of it involved a DSFL player, and everything about the DSFL has been garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if there's one thing that the HO has really fucked up every aspect of, it's the DSFL. and so to go to a team and say, hey, this DSFL player, you handled that all wrong. How dare you? We're not going to tolerate this. How can the response not be, oh, we're not allowed to fuck up with DSFL players? Fuck you.
No, absolutely. I totally get it. I've said it before, and we're working on. The problem was the DSFL was Logan Noble's baby for the most part. He set up so much of that, honestly.
I know.
And he disappeared and left us in the dust with no idea on how the fuck to do. He was running anything, and so we had none of his notes. We had none of his anything. He would just do it.
Yeah.
And so we're scrounging, trying to figure out how the fuck do we do. You know, how did he do this? How did he set up this? How did he do whatever else? So this off season, we're gonna get our shit together. It will be better, I promise. That's unfortunately it was a shitstorm of events especially with a new GM office stuff with so you know we lose the guy who does all of it, and then we have a bunch of issues regarding it. Like, fuck, that sucks. And I know like the waivers have been a bitch, and we've been trying to fix that shit and all kinds of stuff. Like I said, we're gonna get together this off season. It's gonna get fixed.
Oh, I'm sure it'll get better, but
does it suck that it happened to this team at this time because of these things? Absolutely. I totally agree. But the alternative to doing a punishment was not doing a punishment, and that sets a worse precedent in the long run.
That's where I think we're going to disagree, because I think if they had said, we've decided that this is happening too often, we need to start having better procedures to track this, we're going to put on the books that there is a set punishment for it happening, and this is the last freebie, and it's only a freebie because these rules were not, or because these penalties were not set down, because of the transition in GM that ended in that GM leaving, because of the DSFL, which is also being fixed and being more clearly outlined in regard to salary cap, in cap when player changes teams. We've decided that there were just too many mitigating factors for us to, implement the punishment with this infraction. However, this is what it will be in the future. I think that still would have sent the message, still would have improved the process without putting that bad taste. Because I do agree that it's not a huge amount of money. I really think it is all about the tone of, here's a team that's already getting a good thing they were looking forward to them canceled after they had already won it. And by the way, take this as well. Yeah, just we can disagree. That's fine, but
yeah, I'm as you're going through that and I'm listening to you, I'm going through my HO chats just to see what was going on, because like I said, I
know they're not listening to the boat, but when you said that, all I pictured was HO listening to this and sending you a bunch of chats. It's like, abort, abort, abort.
No. So I'm just looking to see where the original complaint started and, how this even came about.
I think it came about with Adam's post about the salary cap, about them being over.
I think it did too. I'm looking at the original post right now and going through, and